The day I told Bill that he was doing the math, and I was like,
No kidding.
you're older than my dad. He said, shut up. You did.
Did you want to eat it? No, I did not.
Doesn't work.
Use those stress grasses.
I know, they want to try 3 times a day.
More than I eat. Cindy says hi, by the way. No,
Or December. No, her daughter went hit with.
I don't know if I knew that.
Oh, yeah, her daughter had
I
twins.
didn't know.
Day after Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
And her son turned 1 in.
Holy moly, that's like Irish triplets for real. Wow. Holy.
I knew she went somewhere at that time.
Yeah.
I didn't know why.
Just stop.
It was.
Ramona, you
And
from
that's
what
a
class?
second ago.
Ramona, what did you do?
Mike did it, he was the one back there.
Good evening, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Our clock is screwed up, so I believe it's close to 6:30. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I would like approval for the January 16th meeting, our agenda.
Madam Mayor, we've had a couple of commission members ask that we remove consent item C2, special event Friday night lights from consent to put on a discussion, administrative reports. So let's move it to G7. Madam Clerk, is that on by you?
Yep.
If the council's willing.
So you're making a motion to remove sub 2 to G7 in order to have discussion?
Yes.
Is there a second? Motion was made by Commissioner Glisman and supported by Commissioner Petrie. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? of
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Now we can go back to actually approving the agenda. Motion needs to be made to approve the whole agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda for today, January 16th.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Glisman. Is there support?
Support.
And supported by Commissioner Atwood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, now for the minutes.
Madam Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Okay. Motion was made by Commissioner Glisman and supported by Commissioner Petrie to accept minutes as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Now it's the time of our agenda for public comments, and the first person I'm gonna call on is,
Mr. Hagedorn was sick and
oh,
asked me
I
to
was gonna say,
convey
he's
his
not here as I'm looking around.
well wishes and sorry that couldn't be here.
Okay, so we wish him well. Quick recovery. Okay, so then we'll go on to anybody else who would like to make a public comment. Please raise your hand and I will address you. Mr. Denny.
My name is Tim Denny, and I have two very different things to speak to you about. One is I have owned a business and worked here in the city for over 25 years. Up until early 2023, I would have said the city is a really beautiful city in almost every way. I think its parks are jewels. I walk the trails behind my office almost every day during the summer. Within the last year, the city has developed a very serious problem, marijuana odors. I walk through them on my way to my office door. I smell them in my car when I go around the intersection of Saginaw and Genesee. It's a bit out of control. I commend the Planning Commission and the City Commission for recognizing there is a problem and starting the process to rein it in. I certainly agree with the moratorium idea. I think we all need a pause to take a breath here and rearrange our ordinances and things to address this. I agree that limiting grow facilities is necessary. We probably have too many already. I would also encourage the city commission not to overlook the fact that you already have existing ordinances that forbid off-site nuisance orders as a condition of your licensing to them. Representing four government entities in this county, I'm all for giving a reasonable time to comply. But I predict this for you, that if they ignore you, you will get to the point where you need to invoke your revocation procedures. At that point, I suspect you will get some compliance from some of these folks. The second thing I want to mention is I understand you're considering a matter of prayer at your meetings. I have 30 years of experience as an attorney in addressing religious freedom issues in the law. I will, at the end of my remarks, tender a letter to the commission sort of summarizing the law on the legality of prayer in government meetings. Our country has a 230-year plus tradition of allowing prayer at government meetings. You don't have to believe me, you can just read the Supreme Court's comments in the Marsh decision in 1983, where they upheld prayers before state legislative sessions. In 2014, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld prayers before local town board meetings. That's the equivalent of our city commission. And in 2017, the Sixth Circuit, the federal court that controls Michigan and 3 other states, indicated that prayers by individual county commission members at their meetings was lawful. I hope my letter's helpful. I'm not trying to replace your city attorney. I already have 4 to keep me busy. I just do not want the idea of praying at public meetings to be rejected out of hand based on the mistaken belief that they are illegal. I thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to make a public comment at this time? Gentleman in the back. If you would, please give us our clerk your name, please.
Hi, my name is Jacob Leroy. I'm happy to see the city attorney here tonight. The city attorney is the only person who has a duty to the city to, consider them first and foremost in legal matters. Other individuals may have opinions. Other individuals may even have law degrees and have legal opinions on matters, but only the city attorney has a duty to the city to do what's right. I'm also aware that the board is considering some ordinances. I'm not aware of the particulars of those ordinances, but I just want to state simply that, passing ordinances for the sake of passing ordinances is not efficient. It's not what we need. So if you are going to pass ordinances, we need to consider repealing other ordinances that may, deal with the same subject matter. And then lastly, I also do support prayers at the public meetings. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Give your name, please, tell her.
My name is Susan Good, and I would like to say that it's been quite a while since I've been to commission meetings, but in the past, I recall a woman that was here every meeting, and she always opened in prayer. And that was before there was what people consider conservative Christians on the board. And I don't see where it's an issue to take a minute to pray for the community, for the commissioners, for the police officers, for the firefighters. And the list can go on, but it can be very short, to the point. But I think it's just a great way to open a meeting. I also would like to thank the commission for investigating the smell of the marijuana. It is very strong. Lived in the city for over 30 some years, lived in Lapeer all my life. And that isn't really what I want to smell. I went to pick my friends up driving down Saginaw Street, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's winter, my windows are closed, and this is horrific. And I went to my other friends, and I'm thinking it's just everywhere. And that's really not what I want my grandkids to smell too when they come and hang out at my house, when they're with me on a regular basis. So I really appreciate your time and energy in looking into that situation for it to be resolved. Thank you.
Any other public comments before I move on? Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Burkhart, and I'm here to pray.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your peace. We thank you for Jesus. God, we just ask, Holy Spirit, that you would lead, guide, and direct everybody here who makes decisions, things that happen that we hear and things that happen that we don't hear. Lord, we thank you that you have the good for the city in mind. Everybody here does too, but Lord, not everybody agrees on how that's going down. So God, we ask for that discernment, and sometimes it's like on a razor's edge. So God, show your people what we are to do and what we are to leave, to pick up and just wait. In Jesus' name, amen.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna move on, then to our consent agenda. Just one item now under there. Yeah, the roll tonight, Nelson, go ahead, Commissioner.
Everybody else is very quiet today. Madam Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda as it has been modified. Thank you.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Glissman. Is there support? Support. And supported by Commissioner Swindell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, bill listing.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to approve the bill listing for today, January 16th, 24, in the amount of $2,749,696.07.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Swindell. Is there support? And supported by Commissioner Brady. Any discussion regarding the bill listing? Oh, Commissioner Brady.
I just had to say that number kind of knocked me back, and then I got a good response from our treasurer that we collect winter taxes and pay out winter taxes at this time. So I've seen $700,000 going to the schools, and I just, it's a good learning opportunity for me. And thank you for the quick response.
There was a sticker shock
A little bit.
till you review it, and then of course there was like, is there probably 4 weeks, 3 weeks worth of bills in this total?
Oh, yeah, since we didn't have a meeting on January 2nd. But for the public's knowledge, we're obligated by law to collect funding for the schools, for all the other municipalities. So it's not like we get all that money, we have to disperse most of it back to the other jurisdictions.
Okay, well, hearing no further discussion, it's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Glissman,
Yes.
Commissioner Petrie,
Yes.
Commissioner Swindell.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, and under administrative reports, under the first thing, which was the ordinance amendment for chapter 15 elections.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adopt the ordinance amendments, chapter 15, elections, the general ordinances of the city of Lapeer.
Motion was made by Commissioner Swindell. Is there support?
Support.
And supported by Commissioner Atwood. Discussion regarding that election amendment. General.
I have several questions regarding it. One of which, changing the precincts, will that affect our delegates, our number of delegates that we currently have? I'll keep it the same. Okay, and then recently
Excuse me, Commissioner, we're not changing our precincts.
just,
We're consolidating
Right,
it based on the new law.
but they've raised the number of people, so I just wonder if the formula for figuring out delegates has changed, or will that stay the same?
That will stay the same.
You asking your second question?
My second one was, it says it'll be a cost for the savings, cost savings for the city, because we'll not need as many election workers and less equipment. but we may have more people, so aren't we intending on cutting down on that? Will that create longer lines? Can we accommodate that number of people?
You can accommodate that number of people. We also are required by law to have 9 days of early voting now. So the magic number is you cannot have more than 4,999 registered voters per precinct. So we have almost a dead even split. I believe it's just under 3,200 will be precinct 1 and just under 3,200 will be precinct 2. We literally just combined the 2 precincts. So instead of having to have, for example, 10 election workers per precinct, that was 40 election workers, we now only need 20 because we're down to 2 precincts. Plus the 9 days of early voting is going to decrease that, as well as permanent ballots. You still have the option to vote absentee.
Are you finished with your questions, Commissioner Petrie?
Yeah,
For now?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Brady.
Madam Mayor, I have I have a couple questions also. I understand that the state law has changed. Are we required to consolidate our precincts?
I'm going to rely on our city clerk, I believe so. Would you like to answer that, please?
We're not required by law to, but the majority of people who have the option will do such.
Yeah, in reading the statute, I saw that it said that we may. And so I thought that it was just prudent to make that clarification. My second point that gives me hesitation about this is the actual wording of our proposed ordinance change. And I'd like to know who the author of the ordinance change was.
I offered the ordinance amendment.
Okay. So that brings up a secondary issue. Besides that, I believe our charter states that our city attorney is supposed to author our ordinance changes. Has the city attorney reviewed this ordinance?
I don't believe he's reviewed the specific ordinance.
I have not.
Okay, thank you. That kind of leads me, now that I've kind of put that out there, I also have a fundamental problem with giving permission to the election committee to set the precincts of the city rather than just changing them ourselves. The charter is pretty clear. It says that the city commission has the task of setting the precinct boundaries, and it pretty clearly sets out what the election commission is allowed to do. And I feel that changing the ordinance in this way would be an unnecessary giveaway of the power of the commission. I think we could just consolidate them on our own and let the election commission proceed with that.
I don't believe you are correct.
Argue
State
that.
law supersedes us. The city commission does not have the jurisdiction to set the precincts. The election commission does, which is set by it's the city attorney, the city assessor, and the city clerk
Yes.
are the election commission who have the authority to set the boundaries. I don't believe I don't believe the city commission has that authority.
It would be in the charter, chapter 3.3.
Correct, but the state law supersedes the charter.
And
Election law would supersede that.
what is I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to her, to Ramona or not.
Go
Is that
ahead,
okay
ask
with
your
you?
questions. Go ahead.
In my reading of the law, it said that the election commission or
Okay, so
The
are you
group-
reading the charter or are you reading the state law?
the state law.
Okay.
And then when I went to the charter, it clearly said that the commission has the authority.
So we're probably gonna have to get back to you on that because I don't want to speak out of turn, but the charter is from the 1950s and the election law has been amended several times.
Yep.
And I don't have everything right in front of me, but I would bet good money that it's the election commission has the authority to set the precinct boundaries, not the city commission.
And then if that is the case, then in this proposed ordinance, the language is already included to basically strike anything that would supersede it. So if we approve it today, that could all be, the charter, chapter 3.3 could be struck. I'm just unwilling to give up that power. I don't feel like 3 unelected people, the clerk, the attorney, the assessor, should be doing that job for the city. If we have that power, we should retain it.
But your power is whether you're gonna approve it or not. You have the final say, the commission would have the final vote on that
Yes.
approval.
I-
So I think that's how I interpreted it as the city commissioner
Yes,
having a voice in what is brought before us.
Madam Mayor. So if we were to vote this down, there's already been mail sent to city residents informing them that their precincts have changed.
I'm gonna ask our city clerk again, but I think that was by law, that you had to do that by December 27th or 30th or something like that.
Correct.
Yes.
Commissioner Petrie.
So I just have a question. Should that maybe then have been brought to the commission before the 27th, this ordinance change, so that the commission at the time could have reviewed it then? And in the charter, it says that the election commission is chosen every January. And I know that it was done twice in 23, January of 23, Dennis McCarthy was chosen. I don't know if he was ever taken off of it. I don't have that in front of me.
He was.
And then in November, you and the current city attorney and assessor were added. So is there any issue that we chose an election commission twice in 1 year?
No, but when Dennis McCarthy was no longer city attorney, he had to be replaced.
Right.
He was replaced with the new city attorney. So in November, going forward, his term expired January 1st of 2024. So we had to have, actually, because Dennis was no longer the city attorney, Mr. Francis had to fill his position. So he filled out the remaining portion of 23, and then in November, we reappointed him for the 24, so that we have a full election commission going into the presidential primary.
I just was.
And I'm sorry, I forgot what your other question
Well,
was.
because it says it's done in January, and I wondered why it was done in November instead of waiting until our first January meeting, because it says it's done, the commission in January. We'll appoint the election commission. So I just was wondering, because it was done twice in 23.
So the election commission's term begin January 1st and then they're reappointed for January 1st.
But they were.
We
appointed-
normally reappoint them in January when we would have a meeting, but because we're going into that presidential, we needed to renew those terms. There's nothing saying that you can't renew them prior to that. And I'm sorry, you mentioned something else. I don't remember what you said. Something about the charter said something.
Well, it just says about appointing them every January. And I know that it was done in November instead of January, and I wondered, is that a problem? Because we appointed them in the same year.
Right. We try to get them so that the term is continuous, so that we don't have any empty vacancies in between them. I'm sorry, I don't have it up here on my computer. I'm trying to find that other spot in the election law that says that it's the election commission that sets the precinct boundaries, not the city commission or city council, which that would be called.
And can I ask one more question too?
Go ahead.
So the election commission can change those precinct boundaries whenever they feel they need to, without first bringing it to the elected commission to say, hey, we want to change it, is that going to work?
Correct. the request for the ordinance change is because prior to this being allowed, the size of the precincts, the charter was very specific in the where the precinct boundaries lie. Okay, so in order to change that, because what can happen is, so the south end of the city is where most of the building is going to come, the new apartment complexes. So that particular area could get up to having too many registered voters in that precinct. And then we would have to break that precinct apart to make it so we didn't hit that number limit. The election commission has the authority to do that so that they can do it and get the notifications out prior to it being approved. It doesn't have to be approved by the commission. Because the ordinance was so specific in where its boundaries were, that's what the reason for this change is. Those requirements are no longer needed in that sense where we have all 4 of those precincts. Does that make sense?
Commissioner Brady.
I understand what the clerk is explaining to us. It seems to me like we're being asked, because of the language of the ordinance that says, it tacks on at the bottom after explaining the election commission, it says, and give them the power proceed, in the future to set those election boundaries. And I'm just wondering, why are we giving that power away?
So the city commission runs the city under the law. You guys are invested with all the powers of the municipal government. But 99% of everything that occurs is done through department heads and myself as a matter of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys simply are not capable of, on a daily basis, dealing with the thousands of decisions that occur. So I will admit that part of the impetus and the reason behind drafting the ordinance is as a matter of convenience, because we're right now in a very, I'd say, unique time in election law, where the state of Michigan is changing the law on a regular basis. And it is a matter of convenience to have the city clerk, the city assessor, and the city attorney, who are already the ones serving on this board, to be invested with the power to make these changes. It's certainly not some kind of power grab and attempt to steal whatever. There are other options and other ways we can go about doing it. But we felt that it was a matter of an appropriate convenience for this board to be invested with that power to make the changes as required by state law.
Can I ask a follow-up question? You said we as you and the election committee and the clerk, I'm assuming the clerk is who you work closely with on this.
Sure, on election law matters, I primarily work with the city clerk.
Right. This would go back to my previous questioning, just asking why you were the one who wrote the ordinance and why the city attorney had not referred it.
I would be happy to answer that, and I'll read you straight out of the charter. The attorney shall prepare or review all ordinances, contracts, bonds, and other instruments which are submitted to him by the commission, and shall promptly give his opinion to the legality thereof. This ordinance has not been submitted to the city attorney by the commission. It was written by me, and this is common. Lots of city managers write ordinances. This is a fairly simple ordinance, very complex or whatever. I have a great working relationship, at least I think so. Mr. Francis could disagree with me if you like. A great working relationship with the city attorney's office. And so anytime that there's something that I don't feel comfortable writing or is more complex, or if I just want a second opinion, I absolutely 100% work with the city attorney on that. This one wasn't that complicated. I pretty much drafted it using an ordinance from another community, changing, I think, only 2 words. So I see it as a fairly simple and convenient ordinance to change. But we're not required, I'm not required, to have the city attorney draft or review all ordinances, only those that are reviewed to it by the commission, or referred to it by the commission.
You have another question?
Um,
Mr. Brady?
Nope, just a sarcastic comment that I will keep to myself. Sorry.
You're honest. Levity is always good. May I have a question? This is to Ramona. Ramona, I understand that the precincts were consolidated, but I'm assuming that the boundaries for those have stayed the same, except for the middle boundary where they were consolidated.
Correct. So precinct 1 and 2 in the past all voted at,
Trinity.
thank you. I can't tell you the exact lines. If I read it off of there, I could. So precinct 1 and 2 became precinct 1. So everybody that was used to voting there in the first place stayed there.
Yep.
Basically, it's Genesee. If you're north of Genesee, you're in precinct 1 and precinct 1 now, and if you're south of it, you're in precinct 2, which was the old 3 and 4. That is literally your number is the only thing that changed. The boundaries, with the exception of, again, precinct, it's all the streets up that are up here and all the streets that are down there. That's the only thing. We didn't take it, we don't have the authority to take it outside of the city.
Sure.
You know, we just put it so that we have enough people, we're under our limit, we're comfortable with the number of people that are in that precinct, especially with the 9 days of early voting. We have almost 2,000 registered voters here that choose to vote either permanent ballot or by absentee, with 6,700 registered voters here. So we're down to about 4,000 if you split them between the two. So you are correct. The only thing that changed is their precinct location number.
Okay. And I did have one more question. Do you anticipate changes between now and November's election?
No,
Okay.
well, not with that.
I'm not sure who got their hand up, but I'm gonna, Commissioner Al.
Yeah, are we on a time constraint to approve this? Like, if this doesn't get approved tonight as written, what are the consequences for the upcoming election?
So I think at least part of it was the December 27th date. We knew we missed that date because of the 2 readings requirement, but we were trying to do it as quickly as possible. I believe you got out before that date. Yeah. So I think that's the number one, and obviously with the literature that are being required to be sent out by the state, we didn't want to have too much confusion. And maybe I anticipated wrong, but I anticipated that the commission would be in favor of something that reduces costs and is more convenient for the city clerk's office to run elections. So technically, a strict requirement. I don't know if someone from the state's going to come down here and tell us what to do, but I'd like to do it sooner than later.
I think, just listening to the room, I just feel like clarification would need to be, does this line up with state law? That makes sense. Because I don't disagree with the consolidation. To be honest, sometimes I go to vote and I forget which precinct I'm in.
And how long have you lived in the
I
city?
figure it out before I go, okay?
Yes.
So,
But I don't have an issue with how it's split up and everything. And I don't have an issue with how it is right now, as written, as long as it lines up with, does the election commission actually have all of the power? I guess that's where, I think that's what they're getting at. They would need clarification on.
So there are 2 possible alternatives, and I know the clerk is not keen on this, but Madam Clerk, if we were to change the ordinance to not directly appoint the city clerk, city assessor, and city attorney to the board, and just leave it to the city commission to appoint, can they appoint anybody they want to that board?
No, they're in violation of the law.
So that's required under state law.
Correct.
So that's part of why we did that. It matches up with state law. Another possible alternative is, instead of directing the election commission to do it, which is the most convenient option, would it be possible simply to modify the ordinance to specifically delineate the borders, reducing it from the 4 districts down to the 2 districts?
Did you want me to answer?
Please.
Yes, you can do that. However, you're gonna put yourself back into the same position in the future if you have to change those precinct boundaries.
Yeah.
I guess I'm having a hard time, I don't feel like I'm relaying enough of an answer to you. You're not giving power to the election commission. It's a power, it's not a power, it's the ability to set the precincts so that we are serving the number of registered voters that we have here. We're not disenfranchising them, we're not making them go to further places. My goal would be to get a 100% turnout rate at any election, and we all know that doesn't happen. So it's not I don't want to say that it's a power. It's not a power. It's the election commission is the one that's responsible for setting the precinct boundaries. I just feel like I'm not explaining it well enough, and I don't know how to
I get what
how
you're
to
saying.
go farther.
Madam Mayor. I do have the state law here, and the wording of it is the election commission, comma, or other officials charged with the performance of the duty by the charter of the city. And then it goes on to describe the powers that the election committee has. So my interpretation of that is that our charter clearly gives us this power. It's just spelled out in black and white. The commission is the sole responsible party for setting the precinct boundaries. And so.
Can I make a suggestion?
Or alter.
Is it possible to table this to the next meeting, or are we going to be in trouble because you don't have this approved this evening? So that we have time for our city attorney to work with you and Mr. Womack.
We would be in violation of our own ordinance.
There you go. The decision has to be made. Commissioner Brady.
I would be in favor of just realigning the precincts so that they match up with, so this would be option 3. I'm in favor of that. Yeah.
So we did discuss that, obviously. I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's less convenient for the administration of elections.
I understand that. The last time that this needed to be done was 1996.
And do you want to have to do this every 27 years?
They pay me to be here.
I look forward to working with you 27 years.
I'll be going.
So I can make a motion then
Yes.
to amend. Oh, is this, I don't know, better to start over or?
Let me make a suggestion.
Yes, please do that. Thank you.
So we have an ordinance, to go, and I'd like to know where the commission's at on it. If the ordinance does not pass, I will draft, or work with the city attorney to draft, if necessary, an ordinance that would do option 3, I think we called it, basically taking the current 1 and 2, combining them into 1, 3 and 4, combining them into 2, and present that as the alternative at the next meeting. But I'd like to see how the vote turns out for it.
If option 3 is allowed by state law.
Sure.
Right?
We still need to have an official motion. Whoever wants to do that.
I think
No, you have-
we're
there's a
on a
motion on
motion.
the
Yeah,
table.
there's one on the table.
Go. Are we done then?
Madam Clerk, can you read the motion?
Yeah, read the motion.
To adopt the ordinance amendment to chapter 15, elections of the general ordinances of the city of Lapeer. Marlena made the motion, Commissioner Swindell made the motion, Commissioner Atwood seconded.
So we're ready to vote. So I'm gonna say, and there's not a roll call. So all those in favor of that motion? Say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion has defeated.
Is it 4-1?
Okay, you want a new motion?
I don't know if a new motion is necessary. Somebody can offer one if they'd like, but I feel like
That's, I'm
I've
just
got-
asking if they wanted a new motion.
But as I indicated to Mr. Brady, I think I've got my corrections for the next meeting.
Okay, so we're good then.
Could I just add, please do involve the city attorney.
Madam Mayor, so do we have to reintroduce, because this was brought up, shot down, he's gonna work on it some more, bring it back. Do we have to reintroduce it the next meeting?
Let me back on our
And then-
agenda with a suggested motion again.
We don't have to reintroduce it because you're rewriting it?
So I would, for best practices, I would want to absolutely do a first and second reading. Because this isn't changing period or scrivener's error. This would be a whole over rewrite of the new ordinance, so.
So it's gonna be another month at least.
Is that, I'm sorry, point of parliamentary
Is that gonna be a
procedure?
problem? Commissioner?
I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's what I mean, or point of order. When we have the first reading, were we read the text?
You're given information in your packet and there'll be, that information will say, this is an introduction. I think you might have
We
had
did.
that on
We
a
did.
couple
That's
other,
right.
From the previous?
agenda items in the past. And then it's reread again the second time.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
I would point out also in H3 on this agenda, we're going to discuss that very issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We can move on then to number 2, ordinance amendment for chapter 8 property maintenance code.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Swindell.
I would like to introduce the proposed ordinance chapter, amendments, chapter 8, property maintenance code, general ordinances of the city of Lapeer.
Is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Brady has supported. Is there discussion regarding
An
this?
introduction.
That was this.
Oh, it's introduction, correct. So there is no discussion on this. Ask all your questions between now and the next meeting. Just like, feel welcome to do that, but also bring any, of course, to the next meeting. Okay, number 3, contract from the community center, for the community center hot water boilers replacement.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Swindell.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement between the city of Lapeer and Macomb Mechanical to replace the hot water boilers at the Lapeer Community Center, not to exceed $57,641.
Support.
Motion was made by Commissioner Swindell and supported by Commissioner Glusman, I believe. So, any discussion? Commissioner Petrie?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
It says boilers plural, so I'm wondering how many do you have, Rodney, and how many are all of them being replaced at the same time?
Yes, we currently have 2 boilers, and we get replaced 2 on demand. There's 8 smaller units.
And can I ask you, has this gone through our city attorney? Did this contract go through, and who has the indemnity on that?
So as I indicated, from reading the charter, we only necessarily send things to the city attorney for contract review if referred to it by the commission. I'm not familiar with contracts normally being reviewed by the city attorney. I believe this contract was put together by the engineering firm. Yep, it went through the city's normal purchase policy.
And who has the indemnity on that? The boilers?
Could you define indemnity?
Well, if there was an issue, I'm just gonna say worst case scenario, a defective boiler that caused issues, maim, injure, kill, is that on the city? Or is there something in the contract that says the boiler maker will cover that?
So I haven't read all 500 pages of the contract that was put together by the engineering firm. But they put together pretty good contracts on how these things are supposed to be installed. And I believe that we're also obligated under state law to have these inspected by presumably the plumbing inspector as part of the installation process.
Are you satisfied? I mean, your questions, any more? Anybody else? Any other commissioners' questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I'm ready to make a decision on it yet.
Roll call on the,
Okay, it is a roll call because it would be, matter of spending money if it was approved.
Right?
Yep.
Commissioner Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Glistman,
Yes.
Commissioner Petrie,
No.
Commissioner Swindell,
yes,
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, the next one would be the purchase of our for our fire department, the heavy rescue vehicle.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Swindell.
I would like to make a motion to approve the agreement of sale of Payette and Sales and Service Inc. for the purchase of a new KME heavy rescue vehicle and approve the budget amendment as presented for a price of $1,186,021 even. What a bargain.
Support?
Motion was made by Commissioner Swindell and supported by Commissioner Glistman. Is there discussion?
I guess I
You've got a question.
will.
Commissioner Glistman.
This is a big deal. When you have over
Yeah.
$1 million, almost $2 million, no, over $1 million anyway. I would love to see a presentation by the fire department and invite the citizens. Let them see a movie about it, a PowerPoint about it, or pictures about it. And, I'll bring cookies. But I just think when you spend that kind of money and you're gonna be so excited when you get this vehicle that you wanna have some excitement brewing within the city as time goes by. And get the citizens kind of excited about the fire department and do fundraisers for you and do other things for you. I don't know, I just think it's a big deal. I've seen it done in other cities that have made it a big deal, and it's kind of like a party atmosphere, and everybody, the citizens feel more connected to you. So that's what I would say.
So for what it's worth, when we got the new plow truck, I had them park it out front here.
Yeah,
I don't think a single person came to see it.
well, it's a plow truck.
We see it.
So for what it's worth, I want to thank the fire guys for being here. I appreciate you guys standing to let the citizens use their seats. Obviously the fire chief and I spent a lot of time and effort working on putting this together. We all know that this is a huge ask. These trucks simply are that expensive. We bought a fire truck in my previous community. I think it was $600,000, and that was only a couple of years ago. $1.2 million. It's ridiculous. It absolutely is ridiculous how much these things cost, but it's state of the art. One of the, I think, most important things in this new truck is all the safety features have been installed now for the firemen themselves. I'm sure Mr. Vogt, Chief Vogt, can speak about that at much greater length than I can. But gone are the days of, if you crash your fire truck, you're just hoping that it's a very heavy thing and you're just going to plow through everything else. There's, I hate to put it this way, there's seat belts and there's airbags and there's all these things that they just didn't used to have. It really is a very interesting and very technologically advanced truck. And I'm eager to see it. And was it 28 months we have to wait for this thing, Chief Vogt?
Correct. So most of your manufacturers are even over 48 months. Thankfully, this manufacturer is guaranteeing in 28 to 30 months.
So when it arrives, we'll be happy to park it out front for everybody to come and see and climb all over. And Chief, you let people climb over your trucks now, don't you?
Absolutely. Which they've done in the past. They've brought, what's the proper term? I would call it the ladder truck. At other times. And we still could do something big and plan for that in the future to get the residents involved and to let them know that they're protected and served by our gentleman here. And there might be a couple lady firefighters as well, I'm not sure, but we still can do all that. But it does have to get moving so that they can order it. Commissioner Brady.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, has the city attorney reviewed this contract?
According to the charter, he's not required to unless referred to it by the city commission.
Okay, I would like to see more things going to the city attorney. I do not have the ability to legally review contracts on $1.2 million fire trucks. And I understand that we vest a lot of authority in you to make purchases on behalf of the city. And in the charter, chapter 12.3, it says any contract or agreement made with forms or terms other than the standard city purchase order shall be submitted to the attorney and his opinion. Okay, I understand that we haven't directed these things to the city attorney, but I think I might speak for several of my fellow commissioners when I say that we would like more involvement from the city attorney, more review and more oversight, and a bit of a separation between your role as the executive and let more of the role of the attorney fall to our actual attorney.
So to be fair, the mayor is the executive, I'm the administrator.
Okay.
But, I mean, so the city attorney does not work for me. I liaison with the city attorney on behalf of the city commission. The city attorney and the city manager both work for the city commission. And, I mean, you know, I work with the city attorney on all sorts of things. As I've indicated previously many times, we have a good working relationship. I think they have a good working relationship. The city manager doesn't deal just with the law. I mean, I deal with the law on a daily basis, but I deal with local politics. I deal with budgetary issues. I deal with personnel issues. I deal with a million things. And so I am in the best position to work out what's best for the city, reference, you know, all those considerations. And so I'm able to use the city attorney for legal matters which I think are necessary for the city attorney to do so. And of course, the city commission can as well. Part of the issue is, and you can do this, don't get me wrong, it would be difficult for you guys to define a policy on the fly of, well, I'd like to see the city attorney be involved with more things. So what does more things mean?
Contracts, purchases. I agree with you that it's a difficult conversation. I'm trying to softly lean on you and say more, Mike, because we want you to do your job well for the behalf of the city, and people elected us to make sure that that's happening. So I'm just trying to give you a little lean and say I'd like you to send more that way. I don't want to. I mean, we come up with a policy if we need to. I'm sorry, Marlena?
There are policies in place and they're being followed.
Okay.
So there is a purchase policy in place.
Yep.
And we have followed it to the T.
Yep.
You know, don't get me wrong, and I appreciate the fact that members of the public have been coming up here to say that they don't think I'm doing a good job or whatever. But I'm following all the rules, requirements, policies, and ordinances as I understand them. And frankly, I think I'm doing a great job. I really am. I understand that there's distrust from the new council members about the job I'm doing now, and I understand why. They've been given no reason to think that, but I think I'm doing a good job for the city. And again, I work with the city attorney on lots of issues, just not every issue. If you want him to do my job, you can hire him to do my job. But currently, he's doing his job, and I'm doing my job.
That's right, and you work for the commission.
Correct. You know, I've been doing, again, according to the policies that have been put in place by all the past commissions, to do the job as I understand it to be. Now, you know, again, I'm more than happy to make the commission happy, and I'm happy to work with the city attorney, but the comment that we want you to give more things to the city attorney, it's hard for me to understand exactly what you mean.
Sure, and
Not everything has to go to the city attorney.
I'm just gonna let you know that, if, in order for the city to run, you do have to get yes votes from all of the people sitting on here.
Sure, I get that.
And I'd like to continue the discussion later with you. But I look forward to our retreat and time to actually sit down and do that.
Sure.
So motion was on the floor.
That's
Sorry.
what, sorry, that's what I was gonna recommend, was having this conversation at our retreat. Yeah.
And decide what how we want to move
Yeah.
forward.
I have a suggestion, but I'll withhold that until Commissioner comments. I just want to thank Tifa and LDFA for chipping in, taking a large majority of this.
Commissioner Spindell.
I would like to thank Chief, thank all of y'all who get your fancy new fire truck for working on this. And I'm sure he didn't, I'm sure he asked all your opinion when they were working on what kind of fancy things do you need on your fancy new fire truck? What do you want? What do you need? And I hope that all your suggestions, and knowing Chief, I'm sure took them. And I'm glad that we have a city that supports our fire department so heavily, and this has been a need. And it's been on the radar in the CIP as a plan for some years, and I'm glad to finally see it happening. So thanks to all of you who did the work.
I just want to tell all the firefighters too, I definitely want to approve this for you. I want to make sure you guys are safe, that the vehicle is the right one and everything is taken care of, that the city is safe in spending that kind of money. And that's why, as a new city commissioner, I want the safety net of our city attorney to look at these contracts that are so much money. Same with you, Rodney. I feel I need that as a commissioner, that safety net of our city attorney saying, you guys are good to go. This is something that, and no offense at all to Mike's ability, but you are a city manager, you are our city attorney, the roles are separate, and it's a lot of money. I want the firefighters to have tomorrow, if we could. I just want to make sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be for the safety of you guys, mostly, all the people you'll be servicing, and I want the truck to be what you need it to be. So it's a safety issue. It isn't that I don't want to give it to you. I know that it's been planned, and I want to approve that. I just want to know that our city attorney has looked at everything on it, and we're good to go on that.
Okay, well, there was a motion on the floor and it was seconded, and we've had discussion. So now it's time for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Glissman,
Yes.
Commissioner Petrie,
No.
Commissioner Swindell,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Brady.
No.
Motion's been approved. Next one is Lapeer Main Street DDA wayfinding signs.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Swindell.
I'll make a motion to support the Lapeer Main Street DDA applying for the vibrancy grant funded through MEDC for designing and installing wayfinding signs on City of Lapeer property.
Support.
Motion was made by Commissioner Swindell and supported by Commissioner Atwood. Is there discussion regarding this motion?
Madam Mayor.
I'd only point out that Mr. Alt is in the audience. Thank you, Mr. Alt. But also, just want to point out that this is no, as far as I can tell, Mr. Alt, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not asking for any money at this point from the city. This is simply a show of goodwill for the grant that they're applying for, because obviously it would be a little silly for them to ask for money and then have the city say, no, we don't want those enterprise funds. So we're just asking the city commission to say, yes, we want wayfinding signs. That's really what this is doing.
So the clarification.
Yep.
Guess we're ready to vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion's carried. Looking forward to seeing more improvements within the city and for directions for people that are visiting. Okay, number 6, design engineering services for Pine Street.
Mayor,
Commissioner Smuller.
I'll make a motion to approve the road contract for design engineer services for bidding documents on Pine Street, including new water main from Oregon to Law, new pavement, curb and gutter from Oregon to Park, and milling resurfaces from Park to Nipissing for a cost not to exceed $54,000, and authorize the director of DPW to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Swindell and supported by Commissioner Brady. Is there discussion regarding this motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, right, because it's money. You're on.
Commissioner Petrie,
No.
Commissioner Swindell,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Glistman.
Yes.
Motion's carried. Okay, now we're down to our city manager's report, Mr. Wombat.
No,
Yep. Nope.
G7.
What's that?
Oh, yep.
G7.
This would
G7.
be the removed consent item regarding special event Friday night lights. So, Mr. Brady, I know you want to talk about this, but at the outset, I'll just say my recommendation would be to postpone this to another meeting for approval for discussion purposes.
I just didn't want to consent. Yeah.
Well, so for the public, we did ask the DDA and the chamber to weigh in on this issue. We did receive a number of comments. I believe we actually had 1 or 2 come in directly before the meeting, which I don't think you guys have seen. All the issues and complaints that I've heard about this event, they're valid, certainly worthy of further discussion. And I think that both the commission and the public should take another 2 weeks to at least consider the comments prior to a discussion on approval. That's just my recommendation.
And so you will have those comments in our packets for the next
Yep,
meeting.
so like I said, we just received a few right before the meeting. We just didn't have time to get them in front of you
Sure.
guys today. And obviously, we want, you guys have as much time to consider your positions. But, either way you guys want to go with it, that would be my recommendation.
Commissioner Brady.
Motion to table, item G7 until next week. Do I have to say the whole thing there?
Motion to
To table item
table
G7
till
until.
our next meeting, first meeting in February. Is there support? Support. Motion was made by Commissioner Brady and supported by Commissioner Glistman. Discussion?
I guess I'd like to hear, and we can vote on it because that's what we're gonna do, but I'd like to hear, from us of whether or not this is something that we want to, do formally, like do we want to formally push emails out? I know the DDA sent out emails to business owners, but, what's done in the past, I guess is a question, what's done in the past to find out about citywide events? Do we have any feedback that's been collected from other city events? Where are you able to collect for us like everything we've got on city events?
Well, so as far as I can tell, this event meets all the requirements for approval under the city's policy. I am also just a little fearful that if we start, specifically going out to the public and saying, we want feedback on this specific event, that there's gonna be an expectation we do that for literally all events, which is untenable, in my opinion. So I understand that this specific event has had some questions and concerns and possibility of wanting to modify it or whatever, specifically related to the road closure issue. So, I think it's appropriate for you guys as representatives of the public to speak to the public in any which way you so choose. And the city, like I said, we can't poll 9,000 people to ask their opinion. But the main complaints that we've received were from business owners in the downtown area. And so that's why we went to the DDA and the chamber and we said, hey, could you help us with this? And so that's the primary group that we're hearing back from. But, and again, every comment we give to you guys. So you'll receive all those. So I don't know much more beyond that, what you want to do, but.
No, that's helpful.
My suggestion would be to take a look at that whole packet. Maybe there's parts of it that should be approved. Maybe there's parts that you might not like or want to not have in the future. Can we fix? Sometimes it's better to take a look at what the problem may be. Can we correct that instead of just saying, no, okay, we're not going to do it anymore. Let's see if there's anything that can be.
Are we able to change their event form that way, or would we have to say no and give a suggestion?
I guess we would have.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Mr. Womack
So we
answer that.
can't force them to do what we want them to do, but what we could do is say, hey, look, we're just not gonna let you close the road every Friday throughout the summer. You'll have to propose some alternative that meets what we will allow you to do. But again, we're not negotiating with businesses. That's why you hire me to do stuff like that for you. So it's more of a question of, you guys gotta give me direction about what you are or not okay with approving an event like that. And on top of it, we're getting beyond the pale here, but I think we probably need to do a little review of the process for how these events are approved. I just think there's some better ways to do it.
Yeah, a couple of things. You kind of mentioned something just now. I was wondering if there's a policy we could work on that would go the DDA first if there was an event that required street closures to get their opinion. Because the DDA does kind of represent the downtown district and different business owners. Not that they would have to approve or deny, but they just have commentary.
Sure, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah, it just allows, I think, public more time to show up and give their opinion. It doesn't have to do with every event, but maybe just events that would require street closures, because that seems to come around a lot.
Would you want that prior to chief of police reviewing? Because they have
No.
review each of that, so would you
So,
want that before or after?
we don't have to come up with the policy now. That was just kind of a random thought I thought about today. The other thing was, I noticed last year that the event organizer checked the box if this was going to be a reoccurring event. And that was yes for an annual event. So he's kind of already spoken for Fridays for this year. So I also have a problem with business. So how do you go about this appropriately without causing World War III? Because I don't think specifically this is an anti-bike issue. And I think there's other ideas out there. Maybe we could recommend a workshop for the individual putting this on to meet with others downtown and maybe come up with a solution. Obviously, that's his. We're not going to force him to do that, but that'd be my suggestion. The other thing was, sorry to ramble. is this a city sponsored event? And this is kind of a question I had last year. What,
Sure. I
uh,
don't think it says on the insurance policy, the certificate of liability.
I can't
I
find
think
it now,
just
but the
said,
portion of
yeah,
the box that
city.
was checked, a city operated event. My question there would be, so the city taxpayers would be flipping the bill for overtime, if there is any, for police, fire, and DPW. Do we always do it this way as a city operated event? Or do we charge for-profit events for the overtime?
To my
don't
knowledge, we haven't
remember-
done that in the past.
And so that's an excellent question and
It
one
is
of
very
my
good.
concerns as well, but apparently that's the way it's been done. So I don't love the idea of the city and the residents having to pay for private events occurring on city streets. But on the other hand, you could see it as a benefit to the whole town. And of course, we also don't want to have 5,000 people in the downtown or whatever the number is without additional police resources, fire resources available to maintain the situation. So this is part of the policy decision-making process of the commission of what is the value and the benefit for the citizens and the public as a whole, the business community, to commit resources like that for the protection of all the people in downtown. No different for bike night versus say Pier. But that's the question is, do we want to have a community where the businesses, the chamber, whoever, can put on an event for the public, and that the city is willing to put in our police resources to help keep those events safe. I mean, we're not just handing them cash, you know. That's a policy for you guys to decide.
Well, what I don't want to happen is every year it turns into like a wild, wild west where everybody tries to get their event in first of the year and competing against each other. I think for the benefit of everyone, when you figure out how to work together, I think every problem has a solution. I don't think everybody wants bike night to just go away. But it's finding what the appropriate solution is, and is everybody willing to work together and find that middle ground and come up with something great. I don't know if that's, just a random thought.
Commissioner Wilson.
Well, obviously, we need to sit down and have a policy on this and the special events. And another thing that I would like to take into consideration is the data on our population, so that we are making sure that all segments of our population have an opportunity or not, or that one event isn't precluding other events for other age groups. I know we are family centered community, but I just would like to see the data on the population to see how we're covering, especially since we're spending city money, how we're making it fair for all age groups with their special events. I don't know if that's clear, but I've seen it in other cities where they spent a whole lot of money on one specific thing, and it was only for an age group of like one decade. And then the other citizens didn't think that they should have spent all that money for that one specific thing. So that's why I'm saying that we need to have a policy that we're fair to everybody. And I am not against bike night, and that's not why I'm speaking this. I just want it to be more reasonable. Right now, I just think every Friday, all summer, we had a very short summer in Michigan, is a lot for one specific type of event.
There's some data out there that, sure, can be, yeah, located easily.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Swindle.
So Chief Howe reviewed it and his recommendation was approve it, but they have insurance required. In his memo that he sent with his staff recommendation, as the application is written, they're not closing the street down. So the street will remain open. age groups for bike night. All the years, the first year it was a different organizer, and so it's been 3 years so far. This would be the 4th year of bike night. As far as family friendly and age groups, you will see people in their 80s and 90s down to babies in strollers and arms. There are families, whole families that come downtown and enjoy our downtown, walk downtown, look at the bikes, go eat at the restaurant, enjoy our social district that's now larger. This, because the application and the event doesn't require closing the street, that was an issue, and that's not the case this year. They would block off the parking, only the parking spots and only on one side of the road is what the staff recommendation says in the application. And if we are going to start cutting hairs and we don't know and we're not sure and whatever, let's talk about Monday night bike night as well, right? Yes, we do need to work on the policy about special events, but this is no different than a car show on Monday. They have a DJ set up. They have speakers blasting both sides of town and down the middle. They do block off the road, and so we just have to make sure that we're being fair to everyone. That you can't say no to you because I don't like it, but you're okay and you do the same thing, so come on in. So we just have to be careful and have a meeting and make some new policy.
That's your pleasure.
There's a motion on the floor.
Are those in favor?
So before we vote, Madam Clerk, could you reread the motion, please?
To table the special event until the next city commission meeting, February 5th, 2024.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion's carried. Table to next meeting. All right, now we can go to Mr. Womack.
So
Item one.
I did my best to give you the shortest possible agenda. So, I think the city, when it adopted the ordinances approving both medical and adult use marijuana, that it just, and of course I wasn't here, but it just feels like it was maybe a little rushed, wasn't fully aware of all the implications and didn't take enough of the zoning into account while writing the ordinances. I just think there are some ways that we can improve the ordinances. And I'd like to adopt a moratorium for 6 months, which will allow the city staff to work to develop some proposals which would resolve some of the issues that staff have identified in the ordinances. Certainly not looking to get rid of marijuana or businesses. I think we don't have that power to do so even if we wanted to. And this would be hard time limited. I don't think we have the authority to continuously adopt moratorium ad infinitum. This is something that I'm asking to do within a 6-month period. It's very difficult to continue to accept applications while simultaneously trying to change the law which they'd be required to follow. That's why I'm asking for the moratorium. I just think there are some ways we can do things a little bit better here in the community. And I guess I would ask that the commission adopt and approve that resolution.
Okay. Well, on your packet was the resolution. And are you asking for this done to be voted on this evening?
I am. Obviously, if you guys are not comfortable with it, you could table to another meeting, but this is something that I believe we talked about at least once before. The planning commission has talked about it.
Yep.
I've had several of you in my office talking with me about it. It's just something that needs to be worked on to resolve some of the issues in the ordinances.
Then I need a motion by one of the commissioners to move this resolution.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Swindell.
make a motion for resolution 2024-01 to adopt the marijuana moratorium for 6 months.
Support.
Motion was made by Commissioner Swindell and supported by Commissioner Atwood. Discussion? Commissioner Petrie.
By doing this moratorium, will we be breaking any of our other ordinances? Did the city attorney say we're not gonna be in any harm with our other ordinances by putting a moratorium on it? And will the moratorium keep us from enforcing any of the other ordinances that are out there regarding this?
So I did discuss this briefly with the city attorney. He did not specifically state what you stated. But this is more of a policy of the commission directing staff how to behave. And so part of it is staff is not going to accept application from marijuana businesses for 6 months at your direction. So it does not affect ordinances. It does not affect any of the ordinances on the books. We're simply not accepting any new applications. And we're doing that, again, so that the law doesn't change mid-process while we're accepting accepting applications trying to change the ordinances. My hope is that within 3 to 4 months, we'll have a proposed ordinance amendment, which then would change the ordinances, but hopefully at that point, we'd have all applications resolved. And so that this wouldn't change how the application process goes for any of the marijuana licensees in the process.
Commissioner Brady.
I have two things. One, it's just a little bit difficult for me to say, yes, let's take a break so that you can work on that, but I don't really have any real idea of what your plans and purposes are. I haven't asked you directly, but I would, maybe in the future, I'd like to know a little bit more of what you'd like to see happen. I don't, cart before the horse kind of thing. I'm not sure if that timing was intentional, or clearly you have ideas of what you would like to change about our ordinances, right? And I'm just, maybe it's just the lag of the government doing things in the right order. The second thing I would want to ask about is, how would this be different from just setting a cap on the number of marijuana grows? And I mean, we already have, the provisioning is already capped, but wouldn't we get the same effect by just limiting the number of marijuana grows and I forget what else is underneath that, to the number that we have right now, effectively stopping applications in that way?
Yeah. So the answer to your question is basically you're talking about amending the ordinance. I'm talking about taking a pause so I can work on amending the ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, a marijuana license cap is something worthy of consideration. I've not made any decisions one way or the other, and certainly it's not my decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this process will be figuring out what the commission wants to see in the new ordinance. Because, despite the heat that we had a few minutes ago, I do try to take into very serious consideration the laws, ordinances, resolutions, whatever, that I think that you guys want to see. My job is to enact the policies of the commission. We're currently just in this weird lag phase where I had different bosses a couple months ago. They're the ones who directed me to start working on this stuff, but it's now you guys making the decisions, okay? So I really honestly wish you guys would stop more often at my office to talk with me about these things, because this stuff is complicated. This is not a one thing that needs to be addressed. This is many things that need to be addressed. And I would be happy to bore you to death with all the details about the zoning changes and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But again, my hope is that at the end of this process, I will have an ordinance that you guys want to make changes. And honestly, if we get to a point where I have a proposed ordinance and you guys don't like something, we can amend the ordinance too, prior to adoption. This is not me top down telling you guys how to do things. This is me attempting to understand what the policy is that you guys want to see. But it is impossible for you guys to sit right now at any meeting and go through every change that needs to be made. this is again part of why you guys hire me to try to enact your policies. A little bit of servant leadership if you want.
I guess the follow-up question would be, I believe yearly we get to set caps on marijuana businesses. But that hasn't happened as far as I'm aware.
I think what you're referencing is,
Provisioning centers.
I think in the ordinance, it says that you shall review liquor licenses. But again, I'm talking about a proposed amendment, which would actually do what we're talking about.
I understand taking a break so that we can change ordinances. I'm hoping smell ordinances and all that, it's gonna all get discussed, zoning, all of that. But as a part of making the decision right now, whether or not we take a 6-month break, I'm saying we should also consider the same effect of stopping to take new applications could be made if we set a cap on the number of businesses that we allow to the current number that we have.
You could do that, but I think that should be looked into by our city attorney of what possibly could happen if we make those changes. Because there was a big problem when we did put a cap on the provisioning centers. And of course, we got sued. And so I would like all that reviewed before we go. Commissioner Atwood.
That's what I was gonna say is, once we start capping things, I think it opens up litigation, because I've been there since the beginning of this.
Yes, you
So,
were. Yes, you were.
I think day one, we put a limit on it. We got sued. So, just so, you know. I think there's ways to do
To
it
do it.
in the ordinance that is less, once it's dangerous, but.
Less likely to get you sued.
Right, because anybody can sue you for anything.
Right.
And obviously, there's a fine line, and we're gonna, I believe the city manager, city attorney, and clerk is gonna do the absolute best they can with making the changes. And I'm assuming that the commission will also have input as well, what they would like. But right now, I would not be interested in putting a cap on anything. Just clear, you know, I would like to keep us out of the courtroom as much as possible, which you might appreciate.
Or not, he gets.
Or
paid
not,
to do
oh,
that.
that's true.
Got plenty of experience on that issue in the courtroom.
Well, before us is the resolution, which is on the floor. I think we should take one thing at a time. Follow this, and then each one of those issues or ordinance changes or procedures can all be taken a look at. I'm not even aware myself exactly of everything that needs to be looked at. Commissioner Atwood and myself have gone through all this, but it was quite a while ago. So, but that would be my Commissioner Peters.
Just for clarification, so if we put this moratorium on, I want to ask again, for sure, we're not going to be in any legal situation where we could be sued because we put a moratorium on, according to our ordinances and that. Also, when you say moratorium, does that mean will there be a moratorium on how we are enforcing our smell ordinances and that right now? I want to make sure that in that 6 months, we're like, oh shoot, we have a moratorium, we can't do anything about the smell. That's what I'm asking.
That's
What-
not with this.
So as Mr. Atwood indicated a second
Moratorium
ago,
states.
you can be sued for having blue eyes.
I know.
That doesn't mean they'll win. So as far as litigation, you know, again, the city attorney's here if you want to direct that question at him, but part of the reason that I'm proposing a moratorium is because, in my opinion, this is the safest way to avoid litigation while we're doing the proposed amendment to the ordinances. Well, I take that back. The safest way is simply not to do anything. But as far as I can tell, the city commission, the city staff have identified problems that need to be addressed. So this is my recommendation as to the safest method to do that. And regarding your second question, no, I see no reason why we can't enforce the ordinances that are currently on the books during a moratorium.
Would you like to have our city attorney answer your question?
Yes, that'd be great.
I would ask Mr.
Sure.
Francis to please do so.
I agree. I'll take them in reverse order. On Mr. Womack's comment on the enforcement of existing ordinances, moratorium doesn't affect that. I'll also agree on his blue eye comment. I will never tell anybody you can't be sued for doing something. That being said, with the time frame of this moratorium being 6 months, and candidly, it could be shorter than 6 months if this body approves an ordinance inside of 6 months that revises it. It's a relatively short period of time. Could you be sued? Sure. But you're also honoring all existing people who got to the table before this moratorium was adopted. This moratorium doesn't stop us from going forward. So you're not prejudicing people who came ahead of time. I think you have a very strong argument in favor of the moratorium. I'm really not interested in verbalizing any arguments against it, and because it's not my job. But I think the moratorium is probably the safest way to go. I agree with Mr. Womack.
Commissioner Brady, at one point you had your hand half up. Do you still have a question?
Sarcastic comments withheld, Madam Mayor. That was just a joke. I didn't have one.
One other thing that and I'm sorry, Mayor, but I'd like to add is I am involved in a series of marijuana cases that I'm anticipating at any moment now we'll get a hearing date on the Court of Appeals, and I would anticipate within this time frame there'll be some more clarity. We're starting to get a reasonable amount of clarity from the Court of Appeals, and one of the cases I'm involved in is going to shed even more clarity on it. So there may be even more information to be able to share as we're going through this process as to prevent the sort of things that happened when caps were put in place initially.
And Mr. Francis, clarify cases that are not in the city of Lapeer,
Correct,
somewhere else.
100%, correct, yes. I'm involved in no marijuana litigation in the city of Lapeer, fortunately.
Thank you.
Motion could be, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
I'm sorry, point of order. Can we have the motion read again?
Motion was moved by Swindell and seconded by Atwood to adopt the resolution adopting a marijuana moratorium for 6 months.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Good work. All right, moving down to discussion regarding adding prayer to the city commission agenda. Mr. Womack.
So, Madam Mayor, this item was specifically requested by, I believe, Ms. Petrie, so I'll let her read it off.
Commissioner Petrie.
Do you want me to explain what I asked for, or?
Just that you're just starting the discussion. You can
Okay.
talk about how you.
The reason that I moved for that last meeting was a couple of reasons. Expediency. I had come and prayed before the commission for, well, between Jenny and I, when she couldn't be here, I was during public comments. She has been not able to come anymore, and I'm behind the desk. So I have been to some of the county commission meetings, and part of the agenda is they've included the prayer in it. So I thought, since I'm no longer in the audience able to do public comments, why not myself and any other commissioners that wanted to participate do it? That's why I brought it forward last meeting.
As a commissioner, though, all you need to do during public comments is just let me know if you'd like to get up and say anything, or, or pray. And then you'd be able, any one of us would be able to do that under public comment. I just want to, you've read your packet regarding it, and there's discussion. The one thing that was not in the packet from 10 plus years ago, I'm not even sure if you remember this, but We did ask for several pastors within the city area and Father Terrian, who was the priest at the time at Immaculate Conception. And I'm not sure if it was a special meeting or if it was just at a discussion at a commission meeting. But it was basically decided, and their recommendation, that we continue to do it and by people just coming in to pray and to be during public comments. That was their recommendation. For some reason. Now we could bring them back in. Maybe things have changed in 10, 12, whatever years. Just wanted to throw that out to you. That's what took place. Commissioner Evans.
Well, you guys are really raising my blood pressure.
No.
No, I appreciate all the conversation, dialogue. No matter what I say here, somebody's gonna get at me. But that's, I'm a glutton for punishment, so that's why I ran again, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I'm a PK kid, right? And so without getting churchy or preachy, preacher's kid.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well, you guys know what that means? Maybe it's just a PK thing.
I've never heard it in that term either, but okay.
So since I've been elected, I've highly appreciated actually public coming and praying. I honestly think there's more freedom in that. I think once we start praying up here, I'm really big into prayer. And I'm really big into prayer life, but public prayer is different in my opinion. And I don't want to read a script or have to stick to a script. That's just not how I roll. I mean, I would want everybody in this room to be born again, but that's not going to happen for me up here praying. It's going to be for me out there doing my thing. Meeting people, greeting people, talking with people, showing them hope, showing them love, encouraging them, and preaching to them out there. That's what I do when I'm not up here, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to get too churchy. I'm not trying to. Again, this is one of those fine line things. Is if you go back into history when churches started making some of these decisions and actually shot themselves in the foot. And I'm a little concerned that if we do start prayer up here, what if the next commission is a totally different body or different faith, which can happen. And it's my belief that just because we print "In God We Trust" on our money does not mean that we're a Christian nation. I believe biblical principles work. I mean, you don't want to be killing people, you don't want to be robbing from people, all that stuff. So there's a specific standard that our law actually follows based on biblical principles. But I also don't want to be in a position where I'm forcing people. I don't want to say the word force, but you know what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to be respectful, but also know that one day I'm going to be standing in front of God and have to give an account. So I'm trying to walk on a fine line here, not be offensive, understanding that I will be offensive to some. It's never my intent to push people away from knowing who they are in this world. But I actually appreciate, and I would love actually more church members or church body people to get involved with what's going on in the city, because they would know specifically what to pray for. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just now y'all know what a PK kid is.
Yeah,
Okay, we can
we'll
just,
learn something this
Learn
week.
something new every day.
Commissioner Petrie.
I just want to reiterate, the reason I did it was because I know how powerful and important prayer is, and I wanted prayer for protection, direction, and guidance for this commission as we make important decisions for our city that affect a lot of people. So whether I do it behind this counter or on the other side of that counter, he doesn't care what chair I'm sitting in. So I had no intention of making another motion after the last meeting. I'm glad that it was up here for discussion. But I will pray, whether it's out loud or to myself or whatever chair or building I'm in, because I know the power and the importance of it. And like I said, I brought it for expediency reasons. I'm here now. I didn't know that it was okay in parliamentary procedure for me to vacate my seat and go down to the podium and pray. If that's not gonna do anything to my position or whatever, I don't care where I'm at praying, or Stefan or whoever wants to pray. That's great. I just feel that it's really important to cover this commission and these meetings in prayer for guidance, protection, and direction. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't care where I'm at.
I think years ago, Wayne Bennett kind of organized to make sure that somebody was here practically all the time. And there was different people, but
So for what it's worth,
maybe you could do something the same.
for what it's worth, and I'm opposed to it for a couple of reasons, which I don't want to get into. But Jenny, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Thank you. I appreciate every time you come and pray for the citizens for the benefit of the city commission. I really do. And I wish more members of the public would take advantage of the opportunity to share their love, their religion, their spirituality, whatever it is, with the city commission. I just don't like the idea of us establishing some kind of religious invocation here when we could have members of the public share their spirituality with us. So thank you, John. Ms. Burkhart? Burkhart, thank you.
Well, it sounds like we don't really have to take any action at this time. At this time, we can keep it as is.
That's cool.
Next thing would be number 3,
Yes,
discussion on
thank you.
the ordinance.
So, Mr. Brady, I put this in here just for you. I knew you were interested.
Thank you.
So, I'm a little surprised and a little miffed at how the city commission has done their ordinance introductions. I'm not aware of any specific requirements under state law that we do it the way the city commission here does it. And again, I understand that a lot of things kind of carry over and they kind of, older is not the right term, but they carry forward until something changes. In my previous community, instead of simply introducing it and saying, oh, can't talk about that, we would have a discussion. Because frankly, and again, Mr. Brady, I'm honest and serious about this. If I'm doing things that you guys don't want me to do, specifically related to ordinance proposals, I want to be told. Because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to do something that you, the commissioners, think is bad for the community. And for example, at the previous meeting, we had discussed the option to draft a second alternative ordinance regarding the election commission. We could have been passing that tonight instead of going through this rigmarole and getting hot under the collar and all these things. So, and I don't know exactly how we might want to move forward on this, but I'd be totally in favor of changing the introduction procedures to include a discussion regarding first submission of ordinances. So, Madam Clerk, I don't know if you have any input on what might be necessary to do that. Because I don't know if that's part of our rules and procedures or if that's simply a policy of how things have been done.
I don't know that I can answer that completely. What I was familiar with prior to coming here was a first reading and a second reading, and there was discussion at both.
Yep. Oh. So, I mean, this might be one of those times without objection. I would make it a policy of the city manager's office when putting ordinances into your agenda that we do it as a discussion item, as part of first reading. So any objection to that?
I think it's a great idea, actually, because we're gonna be able to discuss it up front at the very beginning.
So I don't want to steal your thunder, Mr. Brady, but did you want to add something to that?
No, that's what I'm looking for. Absolutely.
Okay. So that is a policy of my office now.
Do we want to change it to be a first reading and a second reading, or an introduction and adoption?
I don't care so much about that language. My issue is I want to see these items discussed so that we don't waste everybody's time. So we can hammer out those details, I guess, and see if there's any requirements, but I want to discuss these things. And even though I keep putting various matters in there, I don't actually have anything else because it's 8:14 and I have an hour drive home.
It's only 6:20. Okay. Very good. Well, then we are going to move on for our city attorney's report, and we'll be going into closed session. Mr. Francis, would you like to say anything prior to us going into closed session? We have to make a motion, of course.
Yeah, the motion needs to be approved by 2/3, and the motion needs to state the reason going into closed session, which is to review the written opinion of counsel, which is confidential attorney-client privilege, otherwise exempt from disclosure. So I think that's covered in the motion, the form motion that's in the document.
Yes. Okay. Motion, Mr. Brady.
Motion to enter into
Mr.
closed
Brady.
session at the conclusion of the regular meeting to discuss a written legal opinion for the city attorney, which is exempt from the disclosure as provided under section 8 of the Open Meetings Act. Support.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Brady and supported by Commissioner Atwood, and discussion.
So just one minor thing. So the city clerk and I, we have lots of great conversations. But part of our conversation about this was whether we just put it at the end, because that's when we'd like to do these things, or do we have to put it in the city attorney's report to then be put at the end? So just one of those little quirky things that we may need to address in the future. Because obviously we don't want the public to have to sit through, a closed session to get to the things after that. So I appreciate, Madam Clerk, the way you wordsmith that. And we will go into closed session after a vote.
So this is a roll call vote.
Okay, we are down to Commissioner Petrie,
Yes.
Commissioner Swindell,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Glistman.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Okay, we will finish our agenda. Unfinished business, which is appointment to boards. I have no appointments to do this evening under the mayoral appointments, but there is one under the commissioner appointments plus resignation on one of the boards under the commissioner appointments. So a motion could be made.
Can you do the
Over the
resignation
commissioners.
first? Can you do the resignation first?
We received a letter from Bonnie Patterson. She would like to, she has resigned from the Board of Review. Her term would have expired January 1st, 2025.
I'll make the
Commissioner
motion to accept the resignation of Bonnie Patterson.
Support. Okay, the motion was made and supported to accept the resignation of Bonnie Patterson from the Board of Review. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Okay, now a motion can be made for the Center of the Arts of the Greater Lapeer, which is reappointment. Commissioner Wade.
Madam Mayor, motion to reappoint C. Fisher,
Just take a
That's why.
Carol Fishingberg to the Center of the Arts of Greater Lapeer. Sorry, Carol.
Support. Motion was made by Commissioner Brady and supported by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Okay. And of course, in your packet was the monthly departmental reports. Lots of good information there. We're at the point of our agenda for public comments. Is there a public comment?
Bernadette Trees,
Yeah.
I live in the city of Lapeer. Regarding bike night, if there is an issue that people have brought forward regarding noise, I live like at the beginning of the city, and I hear the bikes go by, coming down to Lapeer and going out, and it is not a violation of my privacy or my noise agenda or anything. I don't have any problem with the bikes as far as the noise. And the other is a suggestion that city commissioners make their private contact information available to the public, maybe on the city website. I know the county commissioners do have that information available, and I'm just making that suggestion.
Things such as phone numbers or emails?
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then we can move on to closing comments from the commissioners, and I will start with Commissioner Tessman.
Okay. First of all, I want to say how much I appreciate our Lapeer Police Department. It was Police Appreciation Day on January 9th, and I just want them to know on a personal basis, my dad was a policeman, my grandpa and my uncles, that I really appreciate the things that they do and the time they give up with their families. I enjoyed our public forum that we had on January the 10th and hope we can have more meetings like this with greater attendance by the citizens. The forum was extremely informative. And yesterday, our country honored and celebrated the life and work of a great American and civil rights leader, Martin Luther King. It has been my honor to have met and be a part of the group called She Leads, along with MLK's niece, Alveda King. Alveda King is the sweetest person that you will ever meet. She continues to influence Americans and American leaders across our great land. She is the superlative example of the love of Jesus Christ that brings people of all backgrounds together for good and righteous purposes. So not only do I honor MLK, but his lovely niece, Alveda King. And Happy New Year to everyone, and may God bless our city with health and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Commissioner Brady,
I had no comment.
Commissioner Petrie.
I just want to say thank you to the police officers and the firemen and Rodney and everything you do at the rec center, all the staff at the city. I appreciate all of you. And I don't want you to think I don't want you to have the truck, and I do. There's other things, that I'm holding back, reasons that I'm holding back for. So please know that it's about safety and security.
Commissioner Swindon.
I don't want to pull a step in here, but, so, city staff, Mike, Mr. Romap, has asked the commission on more than one occasion since the election in November. When we have questions that we have for the staff, for Mike, for Ramona, for any of our department heads, that we ask them, or at least tell them that we have the question before the meeting, so they can come prepared. Ramona, if you would have asked Ramona those questions beforehand, I am 1000% sure that she would have had all your answers. She wouldn't have had to say, I don't know, because I don't have that in front of me. She would have had it in front of her. I don't know how many times they have to ask her why you have not complied so far, but it's kind of embarrassing. They want to be prepared for the meeting. They don't want to look like they're unprepared. So prepare them by asking them the questions.
Commissioner comments.
Mike has asked us several times, and I don't think it's an unrealistic expectation or question to ask us to do those things. So if we could do that so that the staff is prepared with the answers that we have. The agenda comes out almost always on Thursday. That is 2 to 3 business days that we have to ask our questions so that they can be prepared for us at our meeting. So if you have those just as they've asked, please ask them beforehand, because then they can be prepared with answers and not have to get back to us or not have to put it off to another agenda later. It's not fun for them to not have the answer either, It would be fair. And there are a lot of policies in the city that need a lot of work, and Mike has been working on some from the direction of the previous commission. And there's a lot more work that needs to be done for sure. There's a lot of ordinances that need a lot of work. We have a lot of old things on the books that need to go, and it does need a lot of work. And they're willing to do the work, and maybe we just need to direct them a little more on exactly what our thoughts are and what they need to work on. And it's cold and it's winter and the kids don't have school tomorrow. So I did have cold days. People are, saying I didn't have a cold day when I was a kid. Well, I'm 46 years old and I did have a cold day or two. I remember Lapeer West closing down a couple times because it was just too darn cold to get to the bus stop for the kids. I support the schools with that, no matter how much crap they may get online. I think it's a good idea so the kids don't have frostbite. And the police and firemen as well. In this cold weather, when it's 18 below tomorrow and y'all have to stand outside with water and keep yourselves safe. And I am sure that you have all the proper equipment to do so. Some won't wear a hat anyway. I have 2 children. They're grown, but shorts all winter, 20 below or not, they're wearing shorts outside. But just stay safe and keep all your guys safe too. That's it.
Commissioner Wood.
As, I just like to thank, or I appreciate you guys hanging in with us. And, I grew up in a family where we didn't really talk about anything. My wife grew up in a family where they talked about everything, but wasn't respectful to one another. So I've learned over the years how to have respectful dialogue, and I do appreciate everybody giving their thoughts and opinions here tonight, even though some may have been offended, some not, whatever. It's not dysfunctional to talk and communicate with each other and get upset from time to time. That's how you dialogue back and forth and you figure things out. It's uncomfortable. I would rather like to flee from questionable things. I don't do a lot of speaking, I do a lot of listening. But what I've kind of observed from the beginning is, and this was the suggestion I had, I don't think it's a question of mistrust in our city manager. I think it's having that layer of protection from the city attorney in making some of these decisions. So the suggestion would be, is it okay if, and I don't know if this already happens or not, but if the city attorney gets our packet to look through and then gives comments back to the commission prior to the city meeting? I don't know if that's a burden or a complication.
It's certainly something I could speak with the city attorney about. I could, in my head, think of a few problems that could be caused by that. And again, we deal with a lot of policies, a lot of the stuff is very complicated. I get that there is a desire to have the city attorney more involved. I'm not opposed to that. He's a great guy. He's great at what his job is. I'm also very good at my job. If I have the trust of the council, and I had the trust of the former council before the election, I'm directing the city the best way that I can. Given the rules, policies, requirements, and everything else, that are required of us. And the staff and I are doing the best we can. Bringing the city attorney more into the fold is certainly something I'm happy to do. It's more of a learning process to understand what the commission wants from a policy perspective. I wasn't here under the former city manager. I don't know what his process was, but I understand that we're doing things very similar in some regards to the way he's doing it. I've taken a much harder bent towards transparency in how we do things. But it's not like there's some kind of hidden agenda here. We're doing things the way we've been told to do them until we're told otherwise. So I'm happy to, and this was going to be my public comment about moving forward in dealing with these policies, as Ms. Wendell's indicated, that may be antiquated moving forward. But at the end of the day, I need the commission to tell me what they want me to do, including further and additional use of the city attorney. And I'll get off my head.
Were you able to finish your comment?
How come you didn't gavel him? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, city manager.
No, that was just it. I'm always I'm a peacekeeper and a problem solver, so I'm always looking for solutions, whether my idea is appropriate or not.
Somebody throw something.
Yeah, somebody just got gaveled. No, I just that was it.
Mr. Womack, do you have anything else you'd like to?
Just very briefly, I mean, the city staff are dedicated to the city, as am I. I'm here to do a good job, and frankly, if you guys think I'm not doing a good job, tell me how I can improve. I really, honestly, truly want to do a good job here, but I'm doing what I understand is the appropriate course of action under the policies. And again, we got a new group of commission members. They've got their ideas in their heads about how they want to see things done, and I'm happy to change. If the commission directs policy that they think is better for the city moving forward, I'm happy to take the journey with you guys and get you to a place where you guys want to be. But I can't follow policies that don't exist. I can't follow direction from the city council that doesn't exist. And I'm kind of flying blind a little bit right now from a policy directive point of view from the city commission. So again, there's no hidden agenda. I think I'm doing a good job. I think staff thinks I'm doing a good job. And so I hope that we can move forward in a productive manner and not think that there's some kind of issue between the city commission and city manager, because I don't think there is. I just think we need to kind of figure out where we all want to go and then go there together.
All right, I want to thank the DPW staff for taking care of our roads. Not that I wanted this snow. I know I grew up with it. It doesn't mean I want it now. But I do appreciate having the snow pile on the little mountain on Park Street, because maybe it'll slow some people down. But if you drive down Park, and please try to go the right way. It is a one-way road. You wouldn't believe how many cars go by on a daily basis that are going the wrong way. But my point is that I know it's been cold the last couple of days, but supposedly it's gonna warm up. And there will perhaps be children out there outside of, after school, or for some other reason, school might just be out that day. So please, and they do have a tendency to slide down the hill and to play in there. So be real careful if you go by there. And tell all your neighbors too, because I've seen it. It's crazy. And of course, thank you to our police and our fire department. It can't be easy during these cold temperatures to be out there taking care of the public safety of all of our residents and businesses. So thank you for that. And with that, I'm ready to go into closed session with a 5-minute break.
Yes,
Motion to adjourn.
Right. We can't adjourn until we come back from closed session.
Well,
Used to say it's comfortable.
I don't know. I've said one of those.
It's like pink and
Best decision I made.
Stand still.
So we got,
Motion to close.
Jeez, bang those doors.
I'll make a motion to,
Close
the closed session.
Adjournment?
Exits of the.
Suspend,
Second.
exit.
Wait.
Motion was made by,
I believe the motion was to exit closed session and go back into open session.
Yes. I mean,
the motion was made by Commissioner Atwood and supported by Commissioner Brady. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Be safe going home.
Well, I mean, I could just walk.
If I'm the duck who's 80 years old and walked over.
Sure you don't want Charles Glass stuff?
Bernadette.
Got all sorts of cool things going on.
Oh, I like this on the podium.
Not either.
And I made another donation to the.
She was sitting over.
Oh.
I caught it right here when I was walking by.
Normally, I would walk.
Kevin Daly's mother-in-law.
Yeah.
She walked, she lives right across from the.
In that White House?
That's in the first house.
Yeah, yeah, well, God bless her.
She had a few months.
Eric,